If you're one of the thousands of lawyers who's experiencing burnout right now, you're probably wondering, what jobs out there could I do that aren't going to lead to burnout? So stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to walk you through this 3-step process that I use with all my clients to help them to identify their burnout-free job. Welcome back. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Annie Little. I'm an ICF certified coach and a former lawyer. I created this channel for lawyers who are looking for practical guidance on how to land, lead, and succeed in the legal profession and beyond. All right, so I'm going to take you through the 3-step process that I've used with hundreds of lawyers to help them figure out what their burnout-free jobs will look like. All right, step 1, values. While there are 3 metrics that researchers use to measure burnout, everyone's burnout manifests in its own way, and that includes what triggers their burnout. In all my many years of coaching, I have yet to find anything that's as predictive as to what is going to trigger someone's burnout than knowing what their core values are. And that's why I have every single client I work with complete a values exercise before I ever hop on a call with them or talk about anything in my program. Everybody needs to start with their core values. So the goal is to identify no more than 8 of your core values. And when you're articulating your values, you're getting very explicit about what's most important to you and what motivates you. And when you can see which of those values are in conflict with what's happening at work, that's where you can see the source of your burnout. All right, step 2. This is where we look at your strengths and your interests. So once you've got your values squared away, which I'm going over it very quickly, very briefly, but it's kind of a long and involved process, but we start there. Then I like to use the VIA Character Strength Assessment, which is through the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Department, and it just gives us a snapshot in time to see which of the strengths that we all have come most naturally to you. And unlike our values, which are usually set by the time we enter early adulthood and they don't change, our strengths are dynamic and they will change from time to time throughout different seasons of our lives. So after we get the snapshot of your character strengths right now, what I like to have people do is what I call a soft skills scavenger hunt. And going through this exercise helps us figure out a couple things. One, which of your strengths have come most naturally to you in other periods of your life, especially in your work history. And when I say work history, I'm thinking like more broadly. It can be something when you volunteer, definitely things outside your legal career. Like I always think about people who maybe were lifeguards in high school or worked in the food service industry. All that stuff is fair game here. And through this process, you will also start to see how the strengths that were like rising to the top in certain areas of your life, that was happening because you were doing something that you actually enjoyed. And I know, can you believe it? We're actually going to be taking into consideration what interests you, what you actually like to do, as we're looking to see what type of job will be best for you in terms of preventing burnout. And so once you've gone through all of these exercises, I say all, it's probably like 3, but they're kind of a big deal. So you've got your values nailed down, you know what your character strengths are, both now and what they may have been in the past, and you have an idea of what your interests are. You can have like a brainstorm session or 10 to figure out what jobs you may want to be doing. And step 3, do not worry, we are going to be talking about transferable skills. As let me guess, you start thinking, oh, maybe I could do this, maybe I could, and then before you can get any further, your lawyer brain is saying, yeah, but you're not qualified for that. Yeah, but you don't have skills for that. Aren't they going to need someone with more experience than I have for that? So that's why step 3, we take a time out to take a look at your transferable skills. And even though we've probably never met, I can guarantee you that you've got transferable skills. And the skills we're talking about here that are transferable, they're going to transfer from your current practice area to other practice areas, transactional, litigation, back and forth, and to industries that are completely separate from the legal profession. And what I've found over the years is that lawyers just don't give themselves enough credit for the experience they have and the skills they have. We're just lumping together the things we do into a really concise description like depositions. Like I can do depositions. Okay, but what goes into depositions? Like, there's everything you do to prepare. There's the stuff that happens during, there's the stuff that happens after. And if you can break that down into smaller chunks, you're going to see a lot of important skills that are transferable to pretty much anything. But if you are still concerned that you are irredeemably pigeonholed in your practice area, check out my masterclass. It's all about how to identify your transferable skills, no matter what you're doing now or what it is that you want to do going forward. There's a link below. All right, so once you have gathered all this knowledge about your values, your strengths, your interests, your transferable skills, you are more than halfway to figuring out what your burnout-free jobs could be. And the bulk of what is left for you to determine is what are the hallmarks of a toxic workplace that are particularly triggering to you and that you need to avoid in your next job. And if you're not sure about what those triggers may be, what the hallmarks of a toxic work culture are, check out my lawyer burnout guide. I have linked it below. It's called Break Free from Lawyer Burnout, and it's going to help you to understand what causes burnout and how you can avoid it as you move through your career.